Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. And today we're going to be looking forward to a London derby in double game week 37. Let me introduce you first to our Fulham correspondent, Dara Curran. How are you, Dara?
I'm good, thanks, James. How are you?
Very well. Thank you, mate. And our Crystal Palace correspondent, Migtavius, is in. How are you, Mig?
I'm not doing too bad. How you doing, lads?
Very well. Thank you, mate. Dara, we was just talking offline before we started. Chelsea can still catch you, but it's not going to happen, is it?
I think it's unlikely at this point, isn't it? There's still a bit of a circus.
Yeah.
Very difficult to predict.
How good does that feel to finish above Chelsea for a Fulham fan?
I can't even remember it happening actually. So, and I'm quite old, so I don't remember it. It's really good. I mean, there's obviously our other neighbours a little bit further west that we'd like to finish above, but yeah, we've never really had bragging rights on Chelsea. Not that I can remember.
You've never finished above them in my lifetime. I mean, going back to when you and I were both kids, you wouldn't have even been in the same league, would we? Would you? So,
I mean, I think we've only beaten them once. Was that I can remember was when Bo Morte scored that goal.
yeah, obviously you had the second one in January.
2002, 3 or something like that. So yeah,
That's one hell of an achievement. Is it still important that you finish above Brentford as well?
I don't know if it's important, but it'd be bloody nice.
Got a good chance though, haven't you? You're 2 points behind. There's 2 games to go. You've got Palace obviously this weekend, and then go to Manchester United, who may themselves possibly even rotate if they've got fourth wrapped up. Bearing in mind, I have the cup final the following week and only play Chelsea 3 days earlier. Whereas Brentford go to Tottenham this weekend and then host Manchester City on the final day. You could still finish as West London's finest, couldn't you?
Yeah, we need you to do us a favor then, James.
I mean, I wouldn't rely on us, mate, but
I know, I know. That's the worry.
I
You're
mean,
asking a lot.
yeah, listen, Mick, the only team we've beaten in the last 6 weeks or so is yourselves, mate. So I'd
You're
pipe down,
welcome.
mate.
Just need another Harry Kane XG over performance and hope for the best.
Harry's very capable of a good XG over performance. Mig, your level with Chelsea on points on 43. You can't catch Fulham. You're 8 points behind with just the two to play. But if I'd have said to you back when we last spoke, which was prior to game week 27, yeah, mate, you'll be level on points with Chelsea with 2 games to go. I suspect you might have taken that.
Yeah, I mean, I knew they were doing terribly at the time, so they probably would have dropped down to us more than we've climbed up to them. But yeah, I would have taken us being joint with anyone, to be fair, at that point. So it's great. It'd be great to be finished above them. We can't be West London's finest, but we'll always be Southeast's.
Does that bother you though that 11th is the best it could be? This top 10 finish seems to be like it's in touching distance, but you just can't grab it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, but it's not 12th. So I mean, we moved off 12 for the first time in about 3 months, which was nice. But yeah, so the top half is always the goal, which looked great at the start of the season, and then we were worried about even being caught up in a relegation battle. So I think we'll take 11th. It's consistency. It's a little bit of progress, but it's also going into a summer where we don't really know what's going to happen at the moment. So it's as long as there's a positive end to the season and finish above Chelsea, I'll take that all day.
Yeah, we'll come back onto that. Is it a more stable summer, do you think, for yourselves, Dara? Is there any concern about Marco Silva moving on? We did have a brief chat. I said to you, I'd heard that
Um,
he was in the running for the Tottenham job, but I was only winding you up.
yeah, there's been some murmurings, and I guess I don't know whether I'm sure there's been a contract offered, and it's just the more it delays, the more the doubt creeps in. But was it Tony Khan came out with an interview yesterday or the day before saying that he's got a great relationship and he expects him to sign on. So that's positive. It seems to be positive. But I mean, there's so many vacant managers like Leicester, Spurs, anyone, like anything could happen between now and over the summer. So just hopefully he does sign and that'll be kind of a sign of intent for some of our bigger signings to stay on and, have a bit of a project if we can do well again in the summer and sign have a good summer window, then we can consolidate our position and kind of hopefully build on it.
How highly does Silva rate to you in comparison to other Fulham managers over this Premier League era?
It's like probably Roy is the only one that I'd probably put in a similar level. Like I can't remember one that's been as good or as consistent.
Yeah, fair.
There's definitely others that have been fan favorites, but no, he's up there.
I'm thinking back to like the first team that come back with Jean Tigana, which was very well respected for the brand of football that it played when it got promoted from the Championship. But it feels like a much tougher achievement to do what you've done this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Mig, we'd take you away from your dinner for a second for the benefit of
of course,
listeners,
mate,
because Dara obviously mentioned about Roy. I think it's fair to say that you were probably a bit underwhelmed with the idea of him coming back. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, I can't lie and say that, I was brimming and opening the door for him to come back in, because I thought, it's a step backwards. We were supposed to be progressing, getting a young team in, a young coach in, pushing up the league, and that kind of failed quite quickly, and now we're going back to what we all kind of wanted to get away from 18 months ago. But I have to eat my humble pie, and obviously it may, with the run of fixtures has been favourable compared to what Patrick had to deal with the last few months of his reign. But would he have done the same? Possibly not. Possibly, yeah. I mean, obviously Eze's change in form has been the most stark thing. Olise is looking better. The confidence in the team looks better from what it was. They're running a little bit more. So he's obviously had some sort of effect on the squad, which has bounced back to having a lot of positive results, which was nice.
How do you reflect on the period with Vieira now? I think most of football was pretty much in shock when he went, because you had this brutal run of fixtures that we kept speaking about, January to March. And then you finally got to the end of it, and it was like, okay, we're at the end of it now. There's only Arsenal left. Now we're gonna sack him ahead of these final games to go. And the one thing that really strikes me when I look back on those results, I mean, you obviously went a long period without winning, but other than the really strange game against Tottenham in January, I think you only conceded more than one once away to Manchester United, despite all those tough run of fixtures, which included draws against Liverpool, Brighton, Manchester United, Newcastle, away to Brentford. All respectable draws in their own right if you drop them in the middle of the season. The problem was you'd look like you'd stop scoring goals.
Yeah.
As well.
Which hasn't exactly been a rare problem for Palace in recent years. It's always kind of been built on a strong defence and then trying to grab a goal here and there. It's just that grabbing a goal here and there just dried up, and we didn't score for 7 games or whatever it was. It was too long. I was aged terribly. But yeah, that it's just it was a shot. There was obviously a lot of people that sort of turned saying, time for Vieira to be out. We haven't won. The team looks demoralised. It looks slow. It looks sluggish. But I thought, as long as we can get out of this run of games, we haven't been heavily beaten by many. We still looked pretty solid. We were just conceded. A lot of them were just soft goals that were individual mistakes and the like. We can get out of this looking all right, then we can push on to the end of the season and then sort of reset in the summer. But they decided to pull the trigger, and they'll say they made the right decision, because obviously it's looked great since, but it may have been the same with Patrick there. We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Fortunately, but
Roy has done well. You're right. It does feel like he's re-energized the team to the extent some are even asking if he should stay in the job. Is this it? Do you let it go after these next 2 games? How do you feel if they went one more year, Roy?
I don't know. I could imagine him being sort of maybe in an advisory role, but I don't think he needs it as well. I mean, he's I don't know what's happening at home, but he needs to rest. He doesn't need the stress. I don't need the stress,
Maybe
let
he's
alone
sick of
him.
life at home and he wants to be at Palace, Mig.
Maybe. I mean, that's probably why Allardyce comes back every now and then. But I don't. I feel like if he got another year and it was kind of the same, and he kept us mid-table and going to 10th, then we haven't really sort of pushed on anymore. It's sort of like, okay, we've been safe. Keep Roy there in someone who knows the club, to sort of advise and help with the next person who could be, well, would be a younger person. Let's be honest. But I don't think they will, unless there's no option. They haven't got any options. I'm hoping they're looking at.
Have you heard any names mentioned? Because I think just generally to most neutrals, probably not heard anyone linked with Palace, really. Seems like a real focus to have just got to the end of this period.
It's pretty. The only real things I've seen rumours wise for Palace is the odd player here and there that I don't really recognise, to be honest. But no, I haven't heard any inklings of managers or anything like that. I mean, I'm not hugely in the know. I don't leak anything from Palace because I don't know anyone. But if they do, give me a ring. But no, I haven't heard any. I mean, we'll take Marco Silva. He seems to do all right.
Oh, blimey! I mean, I didn't even have to ask the question. Is that a serious response? Dara, you mentioned about Leicester job being available and stuff. They might not even be in our league.
I mean, West Ham was one that was mentioned as well. Yeah. There's all sorts of rumors, so it's hard to know what's actually genuine.
Would that, with respect to Mig's team, would that be a sickener if a Marco Silva went to a Crystal Palace?
To move from one former oldest club in London to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a sickener. Yeah.
Oldest club with the oldest manager.
I think it would have to be a big step up in club for him to actually move. Like, I just can't see some that he's been linked with. And I'm not saying Spurs, but there's some other clubs that he has been linked with, and I just don't see why he would do that at this point in time.
No, I'm in agreement, but it's probably the profile of manager you want to look at, though, isn't it, Mig?
Yeah, I mean, he obviously he's done good with a similar sort of, well, I'm going to say a similar sort of quality of squad, but he's done well. He's taken them to where the sort of places that we want to be in the league. I don't know the sort of thing, because obviously he had that spell with Everton that didn't go exactly to plan. So I don't want to be burned by that, but yeah, I would. He's definitely in contention by my books. I mean, why not?
There's probably a historical don't judge managers on spells they've had at Everton over the last 10 years. It's probably
Except Lampard.
What's the stat I saw about Lampard the other day, wasn't it? I think Forest have only not lost 4 away games or something, and 2 of them were against Lampard, which was
Roy has won more
statistic from the weekend.
Roy's won more Premier League games this season than Lampard has, and I
mean, that is fairly phenomenal, actually. Is that right?
He's won 2, I think, Lampard this season.
Yeah.
No, it can't be right. He's obviously won at Bournemouth with Chelsea. Everton won't have only won 1 game. He must have won about 4, I'd say.
No, I think he drew a couple. He won 1.
I think
I mean, mind you, Roy's won 5, so...
Yeah, I think he had seen it that he had won like 2 or 3 and Roy had won 4 at that point.
It's quite probable. Dara, Mitro's back, but wasn't straight in the team at the weekend. I presume that's because of the goal scoring form of Carlos Vinicius, a player I know well, who scored again at the weekend before Mitro come on and replaced him and scored himself. Who's playing up front this weekend?
I don't know. That could be a bit more of a debate. I think if you were to just throw Mitrovic back in, I could see the arguments for both, but I think Vinicius, it would have been harsh on him because he has improved in form in the last few days and he has contributed a lot more. I mean, they're not the same player, let's be honest. Vinicius is not a Mitrovic, but if you just pulled him out straight away, what kind of message does that say to him? Like, you kind of need to reward these players for their performances, and just because one player's back available doesn't mean that he has to start automatically. I think the crowd would like to see Mitrovic. He looks sharp.
Would the crowd like to see him tried together?
I don't know if we've ever played two up front at one time.
Only when you've been chasing the game very late on, I think.
Yeah, and then the formation's just all over the place. I think we'd probably have to play like 5 at the back or something weird, like with wing backs, in order to do that with 2 up front.
I think there's a few that would potentially like to punt Mitrovic, but I don't think we can be sure that he'll start, can we?
No, I wouldn't bet my house on it.
No, absolutely.
I mean, I didn't think. I know Vinicius got his goal at the weekend, but he wasn't great in the first half.
Okay. You'd mentioned previously probably not signing permanently. Is there any obligation that you're aware of? Or
I think he is permanent, actually.
oh, is it?
When I look back, yeah, I think he is. Which would make sense why he started at the weekend. If he was on loan, it would be a different question. Like, there's no reason to actually play him. I think he is permanent.
Completely missed that was made permanent. I must confess.
Same. I think it was quite a low fee, a couple of million.
Tom Cairney's playing in a more advanced position and has been amongst the returns over the last few as well. How well is he covering for Andreas Pereira at the moment?
Really well, to the point that I'm actually quite surprised that he hasn't started more games. Because Pereira played every game until his injury, and there was definitely some games where he looked a bit leggy and just wasn't happening for him. But yeah, I think he could, if people were looking for a little budget option, then Tom Cairney, is he 4.7?
He is, yeah.
Might just fill a gap. I guess the only worry would be the minutes. I think he's probably good for at least 60, but that he'll probably come off at some point.
So looking at his minutes, since the last 3 games, 71, 81 and 68 of the 3 he's started. He's a player who's really suffered with injuries.
Yeah.
The last 3 or 4 years, I think it's fair to say, isn't it, Dara?
Yeah, definitely. 100%, which is a pity because he's a really good player. You could see the ball into the box for our second goal that just like cut across behind the defense was just fantastic. He's just his vision and his ability to like unlock defenses and just transition through. It's really good. When he's on it, he's on it.
He's at his best position as a 10.
I'd say so. I mean, that's probably where we should have been playing him a couple of seasons ago when we came up, but we just didn't have the players in behind. We had too many like attacking players. We didn't have any DM that was able to play him behind. So yeah, he was just kind of shoehorned in. There was nowhere in. He didn't fit in the squad for the profile of player that we had over in previous seasons, which is unfortunate. But
I just wonder if going into next season, it might be that he could be a bit more competitive with Harrison Reed in that deeper role alongside Paulinho.
Potentially, he's just really good. He's just his ball retention and his ability to like control the game and calm things down, but also just break the lines and just move the ball forward. That's something that's really valuable.
You mentioned a little bit of FPL. Harry Wilson is 1 million more than Cairney. And I don't think anyone's wildly looking for Fulham players this week. But as I said, that Palace at home this week and the Man United game might be a free hit where they could, in theory, mass rotate on the final day. Those with Marcus Rashford issues, if Marcus Rashford is ruled out this weekend, might be looking for somewhere to go. And if you're already blocked up with Brighton assets, for example, and Manchester City assets, what do? Do you go for a Harry Wilson, a Tom Cairney, or an Anthony at Manchester United?
I don't know. I think if someone was looking to go for a Wilson, I think he probably has nailed down that spot ahead of Deckard over Reed. I don't know if I'd be going there personally. I think there's probably better options out there. I think Anthony just doesn't fill me with confidence.
No, this is the point. This is the point. I think that a natural instinct, if people are blocked where it's like, oh, I want a Man United player because I got a double and it is a decent double. I'll go Anthony. Like, I want to shoot myself thinking about it, to be honest. It just wouldn't be for me. Now, that said, I'm not sure if I'd go for Harry Wilson either, but...
You could go across London and go for an Eze.
Migtavius. There you go.
Boom.
Hello.
Put on a plate for you, mate. Off you
Take
go,
away.
mate.
Oh, Eze, yeah, just buy him. Yeah, I've got him. I've got him. He's done all right. He's done great for me.
Top
Time I've
class
owned a Palace
analysis.
player and he's actually done something. It's the first time I've actually recommended buying a Palace player. Normally I say don't buy him.
Two 16-point hauls in the last 6 games.
He is him, whatever that means.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I have no idea.
I don't think there's an is in the middle of there. I think it's just he, him.
He, him. 6
Down
goals
with the
in
kids,
that period.
Dara. Yeah, exactly.
For Eze. 6 goals in 6, Mig.
Yeah, it's Roy Ball to the fullest extent. I mean, he just seems like he's had a lot more of a freer role. Seems to be a lot more creative. He's not so restricted to being a bit more defensive. He's playing with his head up, and he's just the goal with the outside of the box at the weekend just showed he's just taking chances now. Before he was having one-on-one chances and he was sort of dithering whether or not to go around the keeper and saving it. Now he's just like, oh well, I'll just have a go from the outside of the box, full of confidence, and he's finding the corners. He's in a rich vein of form, and might as well jump on it when you can. May never see it again.
I'm going to ask a question to Dara, but it does come back to Eze. How much of a loss is Tim Ream at the moment for you, Dara?
I thought it would be a bigger loss than it actually has been.
Okay.
But yeah, it's given Tosin and Diop a chance to actually form a bit of a partnership, because I think the likelihood is that Ream won't be playing the majority of the matches next season. Depends whether he's arms healed up. I'm sure that'll be fine, but I would expect him to not start as many next season unless he Do
you really think that? Because he's had a great season, actually. He's shut me up, to be honest.
Fantastic season. I don't think anybody expected him to have the kind of season that he has had.
No, I think he's been very good. His ball distribution has been much better than I expected.
Just his reading of the game as well.
Yeah.
He was great at the World Cup as well against England. It just seemed to.
He wasn't even in the USA squad up until it was announced. He wasn't in any qualifying games, which is bonkers.
So you don't think having Diop and Adarabioyo has hampered you as much as you thought it would have?
Yeah, I guess one point is neither of them are left-footed, so they don't quite slot in there. I think Diop maybe doesn't look as comfortable on the left.
Yeah, I understand that. But in terms of actual defensive, dealing with a player like Eze coming onto him, that's not so much of an issue. Because I mentioned it when we talked about United might rotate game week 38 for yourselves, Mig. Fulham this weekend. It's a winnable fixture with the form that you're in, and Nottingham Forest at home final day. Now we're talking. If I'm talking about if I've got to sell Rashford for Anthony or Eze, buy an Eze, I think.
Yeah, I don't even know why Anthony's name's coming up, to be honest. Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, Forest obviously fighting for their lives, so it's not going to be an easy game. Fulham are in great form themselves, fighting for a European place potentially. But yeah, I mean, form over fixtures really. I mean, we're looking good, but it seems mostly on Eze and Olise, really. No one else. Ayu's pitching in with a goal here and there, but they're the ones that are getting the returns pretty much, and keeping the clean sheets, which is quite nice if you wanted a defender. But yeah, Eze, and for a good price as well.
When Forest beat Arsenal Saturday, they'll be safe, mate.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. Honestly, I was thinking.
I
just looked at the fixtures to see who else Forest had.
It's a strong potential. So it could be a goal fest.
We don't really mean to pick on South London's second finest, to be totally honest. But in any case, it's a decent fixture. I mean, think of it the other way. What if Forest came to your place and they had to win? Your boys are at their best when they've got space on a counter attack, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's a sort of thing. As long as the defense holds up, and then they just keep coming, then we'll be able to get them on the counter and stuff. But they've looked good. But yeah, it could end up being a goal fest if
as long as your
nothing to play for.
Defense doesn't throw a knockout punch on anyone, mate. You'll be all right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just you saying that you're better on the counter attack, probably this game would be perfect, because in the last number of games, Fulham have seemed to control a lot of the possession, and the goals that we have conceded tend to be on the counter.
Interesting.
Pretty much how we play.
Is it definitely Eze at this stage, Mig, or is Michael Olise worth a shout as well?
He's definitely worth a shout. I mean, Eze seems to be the one who's getting the goals. I mean, Olise now has, I think, the third most assists in the league. I think behind De Bruyne and Saka this season.
Wow.
I think.
Okay.
So I think he's got over 10, which is like the first time a Palace player has done that in the Premier League. So he's definitely pitching in with the assists. It's just Eze seems to be the one who's getting the goals, so he's getting the odd few points more, the odd bonus point more here and there. But yeah, I mean they're similarly priced, so get both. Why not?
I presume Eze is staying for you. You know, for moving it the other way.
Yeah, no. If you've got one of them.
Any love for Jordan Ayew?
He's a great guy. Industrial. I wouldn't buy him. You know, he's not as consistent with the points. Obviously, he does his work for the team, and you know he's helping Eze and Olise get their points, and he's pitching in with a goal here and there. But I would not for FPL. No.
Do you think, Mig, that Wilfried Zaha has played his last game for Crystal Palace?
It's the strongest possibility that he has. I mean, obviously, he probably would have liked it more if he hadn't sort of had it cut short with a bit of an injury. But there doesn't really seem to be much talk in the way of him staying. I mean, I think someone on Twitter said that his girlfriend went on a hen do and they all wore Palace shirts or something like that. But you know, you're just clutching at straws here. But I think
wasn't he on a stag do last year begging for Arsenal to take him?
Yeah, that's well, yeah, and you know, see what happened there. So maybe it's a reverse thing. Maybe it'd be joining Arsenal and fighting for the Europa League. But it's probably, well, I say it every season that it's probably the strongest chance of him going, but with not having signed a new contract yet, we're going into like the final weeks. I think it will be a summer where we try and hang on to the likes of Eze and Olise rather than Wilf, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with it. I'm sure there will be a contract offer on the table. For those unaware, Wilfried Zaha is out of contract next month. What's interesting about it, though, obviously you've had this saga for years where it's like, where's Zaha going? Is someone going to pay the money? Will Palace sell? I'm not really seeing him linked with anyone, despite the fact he's available on a free. Have you heard any clubs being muted, Mick? Because I'm not really hearing anything.
I think the latest one I heard was Marseille, I think.
Wow.
But then I thought, you know, without being out of contract in the summer, you can sign these pre-season, these pre-contracts with obviously teams abroad. They probably, if a team like that wanted him, they would have got all of that sort of thing tied up by now. But yeah, I mean, obviously, you never know with teams like Chelsea. I mean, someone like Spurs could even come in and take him for free.
With respect to Marseille, if it was the Bayern Munich probably offering a pre-contract, you'd probably sign the paper and say, see you in the summer before they change their mind. with a Marseille, you're probably more thinking, okay, I might be open to that, but I'll leave myself time to see what offer is on the table. Listen, if it's a free transfer, I'm sure my football club probably will be quite interested, subject to what business they do. Is it completely beyond reason that he stays, though?
I don't think it's completely beyond reason. I mean, I think there is an offer, or there was an offer on the table, and I think it was in the hundreds of thousands a week, because you had the usual, it's not worth that much money.
But he is to the club, isn't he?
Yeah, I say it every season when people say, even with this year, with like the likes of Rice and stuff like that, he's not worth 80 million. It's like he's worth that to the club he's at, not to the club he's going to. So that is the club where he's at have the power to value the player. But yeah, so to us, maybe less so over the season has gone, because now the likes of Eze and Olise are starting to step up, that he is probably not as valuable as he was. Obviously, as a talisman, he pretty much is. But It's not out of the realms that he stays. If the right offer for him doesn't come in, then I'm sure Palace will still be open to keeping him. It's just whether or not how long he sort of keeps that door open. He doesn't kind of just
the club will need to
bring the
move on
club
at
along
some stage once he's, if he hasn't signed by June the 30th, or he's probably going to go, isn't he? I should imagine. But I find it interesting because he's not the Palace player being linked with a move the most. That's probably Mark Gay.
Yeah. We're trying to go over to the other South London club.
He's been linked with pretty much every Big Six club, probably bar Chelsea, where he came from.
Well, I think towards the start of the season, I think I even saw them being linked. But it seems. To be fair, with the performances he's had last season and this season, I'm not surprised that clubs will be coming in for him. He's been consistent over the season. He's had the odd couple of mistakes, but then who hasn't? So, and he's young. He's got that English tax. It's the sort of thing where we have to, as a club, we need to step up so that the likes of Gay, Eze, Olise, want to actually stay at the club and not think, oh, we're just a stepping stone up to going back up to the top 16 sort of thing. But he could walk into any of those clubs and have a presence in the defence.
Okay. Dara, any concerns about any of your players? I guess in a weird way, is this Mitrovic ban stop people talking about him, or?
No, we're just waiting for him to come back.
Good answer, mate. I guess the one probably is Paulinho, is it? Is there any concern there?
Yeah, potentially. I think I think it would have to be big money though. And probably Silva signing a new contract would maybe be enough for him to stay on at least another season. I think like the expectation from Fulham fans is he's not going to be there for the full length of his contract. But if we can get another year or two out of him, then fantastic.
Yeah, your squad, Mig, it feels more like could break up a bit this year with, if a sort of 50 million comes in for a Gay or something, the club's got to consider it. I think, for example, with Wilf out of contract, feels like new manager could change quite a bit. Yours, Dara, like I could see you kicking off next year with what you've got plus more, I think. That's how it feels right now.
I think we've got one of the oldest squads in the league, so we definitely need to add to what we've got. But yeah, I think keeping some of the key players is going to be the big thing, really, and just build on this season.
Where does that need improving the most? If I said you as one position you could really fix this summer, what would it be?
Oh, I don't know. Probably not that we need a centre back. Realistically, we need all across the defense. We need a left back and a right back because we need competition for those players that are in there for Robinson and Tete.
Davinson Sanchez of any interest to you, Dara?
Oh, you're all right, thank you. Not Emerson Royale either.
I'm going to keep Emerson. You keep your Kene Tete. I've got my Emerson Royal. I'm okay with, mate. Yeah, there's a few players I could flog off you. I don't suppose you'll be offering Palace 50 million for Gay, will you?
Don't think we've got 50 million to spend.
Is the club restricted?
This season, I think we were probably teetering on the edge of financial fair play. But
really,
I'd say it wasn't too far off. But now that the 2018-19 season is kind of like it's every 3 years or something, isn't it? Isn't that the way fair play? So now that like first year that we came up is kind of rolling over, where we spunked 100 million and had all these players on massive contracts. Now that and like because we were paying in installments, it was like chunks every year.
So what they did is they moved the 2 COVID years into like a 1 and an average. It's actually over the last 4. It will go back to being last 3. But that's a very fair point.
So we should have a bit more, and obviously staying up as well is going to really help.
Yeah, of course, that puts serious money in the bank, guaranteed. But does that part explain why I've heard rumours of £3,000 season tickets?
They've sold out, which is even more bonkers.
No way.
Sold out.
They got too much money in West
London. For the listeners and the viewers who don't know what I'm talking about, can you just fill in what that's all about?
It's the Riverside stand. They've decided there's certain area. I don't know how many tickets it is, but it's a certain proportion of the Riverside stand. The season tickets are going for £3,000. It's not even hospitality. That's just your seat. And the cheapest ticket, I think, is it 1,200, something along those lines. Maybe 1,500. It's not cheap.
Have they sold out that whole stand then?
I think the whole the season tickets.
I'm staggered by that.
Yeah, it's mental. It's absolutely.
Do you think that's Fulham fans have bought those tickets?
No, definitely not. I think that's like corporate or something.
That's extremely alarming, isn't it?
Yes, and I don't know. There's been no response from the club whatsoever. The supporters trust have written an open letter to them about the prices.
I saw.
I think what's happening as well is like it was a grand flat for that stand at the start of this season, which was insane as it was. £3,000, like I don't know, is there another ticket in the world that goes for 3,000? But what that's doing is that high price is masking the fact that there's an 18% price rise on season tickets everywhere else.
Wow.
Which is mental. When you see like Chelsea and other clubs freezing the prices, Brentford have frozen the price of their season tickets, and we're just chucking up another 18%.
Does that unfortunately come with? There was a lot of speculation that Tottenham were to rise season ticket prices this year, but obviously the season kind of flatlined, and it was like you can't put the ticket prices up now. We're coming out of the Champions League and all that sort of stuff. Yours has probably progressed quicker from promotion, quicker than probably people expected. Where Fulham finished top half. Oh, okay, we can start charging like some of these other London clubs. Is that what's happening here?
I think it's quite. I don't know. It's quite dangerous. Like to rise the prices more than what inflation is as well. Like if you're a family and you're trying to bring your kids or your wife or your father or your mother to a club, and to get a second ticket on top of your season ticket, like that's just I can't even fathom what the match day tickets are going to be, because they were already expensive this season.
Joe, it's a big problem within football as well at the moment. Is the argument from the club will be, the club will look at it and go, right, so they've charged between £1,000 and £3,000 for these tickets in this new stand. If they've sold them,
money, yeah,
they don't care, mate.
I think
the problem for you specifically is you're based in a very, very nice area of London, where, to be honest, there are richer people, and if Fulham fans don't fill it, you fill the ground with tourists, mate. Without any shadow of a doubt, as long as you've got Premier League football.
Yeah, but if this stand isn't Fulham supporters and it's tourists or corporate or whoever it might be, you've priced out quite a lot of diehard fans who've been going for years and years and years. If we have second season syndrome next year, who's going to sit in that stand?
That's the problem.
There's no one's going to like fill out that stadium in the Championship.
No, would it certainly not. I mean, how far would they have to come down on the pricing if it was Championship football?
The club have been beating the drum on this sustainability thing, that they need the money, but to compete at this level. But like a sustainability viewpoint, if you're pricing it to fans, that's not sustainable.
There are a lot of clubs in the Premier League who I don't think need the sustainability of their fans, as in match day ticket pricing. There are certain ones like
the tickets don't matter a damn. Like
there are certain ones like my club, if they want to try and be competitive financially with the likes of Manchester United, do need to charge these higher ticket prices. For yourselves and the level you're at now, what massive difference does it make? Or maybe only, like what you said, if there's a little bit of fear about FFP and stuff.
There probably was last year, but I don't think this season. I mean, if the jump up in prices are probably earning the club, what, 2 million, 3 million, maybe more a year? That's another Brent Leno, maybe.
That's how we're quantifying things in Bert Leno's.
Yeah.
That would have been so much better if you said it was another Marek Rodak.
3 million is nothing. Like, in the grand scheme of things, that's not going to make a huge difference when we've got what's bloody TV money, like 150 million plus. It's just silly.
Yeah. Mick,
it's an easy win. Like, it's a really easy win for the club just to like, oh, right, we're going to freeze the prices. I don't understand it. I just don't get it.
But again, if the bums go on the seats, they don't care.
Yeah.
I know that's the attitude with me at Tottenham. If I don't go, someone else will go. The club doesn't care where their money's coming from anymore.
Yeah.
And that's for the London clubs, it's becoming a real problem. And I think, Mig, like there's talk of you doing the main stand as well, isn't there? Be similar problems, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was just looking now. Our most expensive season ticket is £895, I think, to renew.
Which will shock a lot of people, by the way. But actually, in London, that's not outrageous, probably.
But yeah, the main stand has been in planning for years now. It's just obviously getting permissions and stuff. But yeah, I can see a similar thing. I mean, you saw at the Emirates, you got to, and with Spurs, you got to pay for these things. That's what the clubs would say. Oh, we've invested all this money. We need to sort of recoup this. You've now got all fancy new stands and seats and hospitality stuff. So we'll jack the price up. We don't really mind if you've come, even though you've been coming here for 20 years. We can get, them from down the road, or they've flown in specially for it.
Can I tell you, there's nothing fancy about the Arthur Waite stand at Selhurst Park.
Oh, I know.
And there's nothing fancy about the Putney end at Craven Cottage either, where it feels like you're clunking up temporary seating when you walk up it. So there's that factor in as well.
For a couple of games, it's not the nicest.
No, that's interesting discussion, gents. Thank you both so much for that. Dara, let's have a prediction. Firstly, will you finish above Brentford? Yes or no?
I think if we win at the weekend, yes.
Mig, your level with Chelsea, will you finish above them? Yes or no?
Yes.
Good stuff. Correct score prediction for the weekend, please, Dara.
What will I say? I'll say 1-0 Fulham.
Plain Shay. That's ruined the Eze narrative, hasn't it?
But
by the way, is it Eze or Eza?
It's Eza.
I'm hearing a lot more Eza creeping in from commentators lately.
It's Eza rather than Eze.
Really shit when you've been saying someone's name like one way for 4 years to then change it.
Eza.
That's the seems like QPR.
Eza, okay. Eza. Mig, correct score prediction, mate.
I'll say 2-1 Palace.
Good stuff, mate. Good luck to both of you. Sid will be back with me on the Sky Pod tomorrow. I didn't do where to follow you. Mig, Dara, where to follow you on the Bird app, mate?
At the Tinkerman on Twitter.
Good man. And Mig?
At Migtavius, Migtav.
I did remember, just in time. Good man. And we got another COTC for you on Thursday. Manchester United versus Chelsea with the two Garys, Robinson and Mansell. But just leaves me to say thanks again so much to Dara and to Mig. Good luck this weekend, gents. Cue music, please. Man child.